Hi everyone. I've been playing a lot of Diablo 2 Medianic Cell lately, and I've been very impressed and excited by it. Therefore, I tried to convince some of my friends who play Diablo 2 to try it themselves, but they've been put out by the changes or confused by what this is. I've not found any guides or intros. Everything seems to be so cryptic, so I've decided to try to explain. What is Medianic Cell and why is it worth giving it a try? It is a complete overhaul mod of the Diablo 2 game. It is similar enough, but completely different in so many aspects that it is very weird initially for someone who only played the original Diablo 2. But there are some very strong points that are really, that really made me fall in love with this mod, and here they are. One, neat and interesting new builds for every class, from a melee laser sword wielding sorceress to a nuclear bomb wielding assassin or a dark vampiric paladin, alongside some classic feeling builds like a regular melee barbarian, which is awesomely strong, or a Christmas light type of magic wielding sorceress. Even though the skill trees are completely new and weird, it is easy enough to choose and try a build without knowing much about it by selecting one skill column that has the abilities related to the type of build you want and a general passive or buff column. That's it. Put points in two columns and go kill stuff. It should be enough to begin with, but you can get very fancy in the end game and switch around, try some abilities that do some interesting things, or if lucky, get some unique abilities on late game, unique items and sets, which will morph the build into something completely new and awesome. 2. A less random leveling experience. The original Diablo had 3 tiers of items which would just drop randomly from monsters, roughly 1 tier for each difficulty level. The items would simply be named differently. For example, the first tier 1 helmet is a cap, the tier 2 variant is a war hat which will drop in Nightmare, and the tier 3 is a Shaco. In Median there are technically 5 tiers, but officially 4 of them are actually considered and named tiers, where the 5th one is the sacred category of items, which is kind of above the other 4. The beauty of the system is that tiered items, which have a 1 to 4 number in the brackets next to the item's name, can be crafted or transformed into specific uniques of their type. So a cap can always be upgraded into its unique equivalent, the Jester. Then upgrading tiers is relatively inexpensive, so you can keep your preferred unique items with your character throughout the leveling process, and in some cases even through to the end game. There is some RNG in this, of course. You need to find a cap in the world or in vendor inventories and the resources needed for upgrading, but it is much easier to get them while still having the normal system, where you can see a useful item simply drop from a monster or a boss. Aside from that, there are 2 challenges at the end of the normal difficulty level, right before Baal, and after killing Mephisto or Nightmare, which rewards some crucial and very powerful charms, which are pretty much mandatory in order to face the horrors of the Hell difficulty level. 3. The end game is excellent. It revolves around some special encounters or areas where the biggest pull is that the rewards from the end game encounters usually come in the form of some specific charms which empower your characters in various ways. Some encounters are more difficult than others, and some are easier for some builds than others. So aside from the slot machine system of the original Diablo 2 endgame, there is this progression which is very interesting and exciting. There's always a question about which dungeon should I attempt, what reward do I get for it? Would another reward charm help me in this encounter? Is my build good enough? Should I just farm some gear in the meantime, or just upgrade my current gear? Is that enough? Upgrading and customizing gear is such a long and complicated topic that I won't even touch on it. There are some useful guides here and there, but that's not the point of this. There are no guides for the Ubers in this season, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I will be posting guides for each of the endgame bosses and dungeons, and my experiences facing these challenges. Be warned though, the user interface has changed in the latest version quite significantly, and that can be a real turnoff. Just give it a chance for a few levels, try to go through the first act maybe, to get acquainted with it a little bit, and it should stop being an issue. Also, monsters and abilities are quite different, and if you find yourself dying too fast in some areas while leveling, take a step back, take a break, take a look at your gear, and determine what can be improved. A unique item or a tier upgrade can really make a difference. The defense of an armor item can double or triple after a tier upgrade, and the damage of a weapon can also increase. So, you always have the tools to better the characters you play. And also, don't worry about being liberal with your stats or skills, while leveling. Respeccing is much easier in Median. Aside from the 3 free respecs per character at Akara in the first act of each difficulty level, the late game provides some randomly dropped potions that reset your character's stats and skills. Even if they do not drop too often, changing builds and optimizing characters in the end game is easy enough to do this way. And don't neglect your elemental resistances. Save some perfect gems, and do not forget to use them to get to the resistance cap on each difficulty level. Another important thing to be aware of is that the default movement for all the characters is now walking instead of running. To run, you simply need to keep a key pressed, by default the control key. This is because running in Diablo 2, and that includes the original version, will lower the character's defense to 0, which becomes very relevant in some areas in Median. You want to benefit of the defense that the character has in order not to perish instantly in the world of Median. The dungeon bosses and rifts function very differently though, and I have some trouble finding information about how they work and what must I do to overcome them. The official guides on the Median webpage are helpful to a point, and some encounters I feel were cryptic or difficult enough to get into. So from now on, I'd like to share my experience with discovering these encounters, so expect a series of videos about all of the ones that I've defeated. Thank you very much, have fun, and see you at the next one.